Hello and welcome back to the show, Respectfully Inspired. Today I'm here with a very special Beast Games guest because he's not only someone who made it very far in the show, but he happens to be the 45th and upcoming 47th President of the United States. Mr. Trump, could you tell me about your experience on the Beast Games?
Well, Auzi, let me tell you, it was quite engaging, to be honest. Quite frankly, a little disheartening to realize that I didn't win, but we're just gonna try for season 2. I originally competed because I have to pay back my dad the small loan of $1 million that he gave me. The wall isn't gonna be built off of taxpayer dollars. I need to make that money myself, and that's what I was gonna do in the Beast Games.
Well, Mr. Trump, what do you think about the prize being $5 million?
It's an insult to the American people, let me tell you. Quite frankly, it's an insult. That's the best they could do, $5 million. We all know Jimmy Donaldson is worth billions of dollars. Okay, it's a slap in the face. Okay, what am I going to do with $5 million? Wipe my ass? That's not okay. I need more than that.
Jokes aside, man, this guy was one of the funniest guys on set. I probably mentioned this a bunch of times by now, but there was a producer named Klitzner who kind of ran us through the challenges. And my favorite thing to do in the show would be like, Matthew, could you repeat Klitzner and Trump?
Oh my gosh, dude, yes. So many people. I felt like it turned into like this morale boost almost. Yeah. I remember Queen would hit me up with like requests for the Trump voice whenever she's feeling down or something. And I tried my best to hide it from Carl and Nolan and all of them, but eventually Tariq found it and then brought the camera over. So I had.
Did they ask you to do it on camera?
They have one clip of me doing it, so I mean it's out there, but I tried to hide it because I didn't know if it was like controversial or something. I didn't know if they.
That's really interesting because I could so see them putting it in as like a funny meme, but I could also so see them being like, we can't touch that.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting. I guess the way I picture this is that people find this right after you get eliminated. So let's just go right into the hard stuff and then we'll recap your experience. But can you take me through what it was like losing on Chance?
Losing on Chance was really bittersweet because you know going into it that you have no control. You have nothing. So there was a lot more faith involved because physical, it was just a testament of your physical prowess, your mental like fortitude or your intelligence. But Chance was just a luck of the dice. And I remember actually being the first contestant to walk up to any of the 3 platforms. So
You're the first?
In the drone shot or whatever, you just see this like ginger man walking up to the platforms.
Really?
And Mr. Beast came over to me. He's like, so, you seem pretty confident in Chance, and what's going through your head? And I think whether it was my content creator in me or just sheer panic, I just told him, I said, Jimmy, it's the funny door. It's the funny door. It's like gambling. You just put it all on black.
Jimmy?
Jimmy, it's the funny door. I'm a risk taker, Jimmy. That's what I do. I figured that I had risked, I had taken a chance this entire show. I don't feel like anything I had done, Vegas excluded, anything I had done in the show was skill in the first place, so I might as well keep riding this chance.
A lot of people chose Chance for that reason. Like, I thought immediately, I know I don't want to do Chance because if I lose to something that's not in my hands, I'm going to be pissed. And then I was expecting a lot of people to think that way. Because, we're in the top. We've got to be the most competitive people. But in reality, so many people went to Chance just thinking like, dude, I had very little say in getting it this far and might as well just continue riding the Chance.
Yeah, it's kind of it. I mean, I think there were 16 of us. And there was, if I'm not mistaken, there were 16 of us in total. I might be wrong with that. But when what's really interesting is that I had really high spirits. In stark contrast to everyone else.
Yeah.
I remember sitting in the van waiting to go into the show, to the hangar, and everyone was pretty quiet. Everyone was pretty nervous. The driver asked us if there was any music requests.
Yeah.
And I was like the only one talking, giving out requests and listening to music. Everyone was like, no. So everyone was really nervous, choking up. And it was only when Jimmy spun the wheel and it landed on 12 is like when the dread set in, when the realization that, yeah, I'm probably going home set in. And I ran the numbers in my head. I was like, okay, there's only a fourth of us who are going to move on. So realistically, I was already thinking of going home. I was in that mentality even before the first platform dropped, which led to my, I guess my idea of giving the camera like a Jim Halpert stare as I drop.
Yeah.
Because Carl comes up to me. He's like, there's cameras on each one of you. Like, they're going to be watching you right when you drop, if you drop, of course. So just make sure you're aware of that. And so me thinking that, okay, I'm done for, I'm like, I might as well go out with something, a little funny or whatever. Because I feel like up to this point in the show, I didn't have enough plot or enough lore or enough like relations with other, like tensions with other contestants. So the best I'm going to get in the show is probably like this comedic relief little side character. And so I'm like, if that's the part, then I'm willing to play that. And so I just, every time Jimmy would say, next platform drop, I would give the camera another take of just like a, wait, which one?
This one's probably the best.
I was just like, and then I drop. So when I eventually do drop, at least
so you're going to get that drop clip in. Well, if the people are watching this now, then they'll know if that drop clip made it in.
I hope they show it,
Tense.
Oh! No! Why do you feel like you weren't a main character, perhaps?
I mean, and I don't say that in a negative way, right? I think that when you have too many cooks in the kitchen or too many main characters, it gets bloated, and
for sure,
everyone's trying to already. I realized that one, I don't think I'm ever going to be able to, like, really understand what $5 million would do to me. It's just, I'm too young. It's just too much. I wanted to obviously give it my all, but at the end of the day, I knew that someone else would do a lot better, would be a lot better off with it. So on top of that, I think the main reason why I didn't really think I had as much going for me is because, I'm relatively well off. I'm not, I'm not swimming in wealth or anything, but, I have a little community on the internet. I have a couple of great friends. I have a really amazing family. I have great siblings. I have so many good things going for me. No one's dying. I don't have a sickness. I don't have, any relatives who are in jail or something.
Life's good.
I'm just a basic white guy.
You're playing out
That's
of
just
abundance.
not good for TV. They just don't want that, I guess. Especially in comparison, because so many people had such amazing, compelling stories.
Yeah.
And that's not saying any one story is more important than the other.
Yeah.
I just think that not everyone should be a main character.
Well, you said a lot of things that I want to comment on. Well, first of all, because I feel like I was a main character. Maybe that's just my ego. I think that I talked to the camera a lot. I got mic'd a lot before everyone got mic'd, and then I got double mic'd before everyone got double mic'd. And I feel like a main character, but I'm trying to relax on that thought, because it's like if you got out at the place we got out in Survivor, you would be like last place. In Survivor's trying to split camera time between 30 people, And so while I feel like a main character in terms of 2,000 people, how it's just, and I don't want to feel like, I don't want to build up something in my head and have this expectation and then, not fulfill it. But the other thing with what you said too, is I didn't feel money was not a motivator for me. I actually don't make money would literally be life-changing for me. But I think because I grew up and my parents always I never went through like a poor phase or anything. And just, money's never been a big motivator for me. I think because my content hasn't taken off, the exposure was a bigger motivator for me. But even then I kept trying to just remind myself, like, these are from everything I've experienced in my life, money and views are metrics that feel great in the short term, but unfulfilling in the long term, and memories and relationships tend to be fulfilling in the long term. So I was just trying to be, how can I focus on the incredible memories and the incredible relationships, which I do think the island gave us such a big advantage in that. And I felt super grateful to have accomplished that. But it's really interesting hearing you talk through it.
Well, I mean, like, here's the thing. If I want to really increase my odds, because at the end of the day, I'm there for my community.
Yeah.
And I'm there for exposure, a lot like you. I didn't really have many financial motivations. Of course, I'm not going to say no to money. Of course, I'm not going to say no to a prize. But I wanted to cut my losses and really put on a great show. Because at the end of the day, and this is something I wrote in my application for the show, my main passion is entertainment. I love to entertain people. It's through my content, through my streams. That's always, at the end of the day, going to be my main goal. If I can provide the best content possible, real genuine too, by the way, none of that sort of like playing a character, then I know that I will have done a good job. And so when I took into account my own sort of like personality, just my vibe overall, I just felt it was right that I was this sort of, their character who, he's present, he's there, but he's not trying to get the limelight too much. He's not trying to make a storyline if it doesn't happen naturally. And no storyline did happen naturally for me. So I think that I think personally, at least, that's all I'm saying, I work well as a relatively a supporting character, huh?
Bro, that is like such a humble way of life and such a good answer. I feel like I strive to be like that, but I lean toward my ego, and it's so cool to hear you just say like I'm fine being a side character, and because I do think like that set just naturally attracted, the application naturally attracted people who wanted to be main characters. And I remember like a couple times in the show being like, dude, I've done so many interviews and stuff, and then everyone else would be like, I've done so many, and like 90% of the people thought they were main characters. So it's really awesome to just see someone who's humbled, and like your drive to be authentic, I think, is probably why you've succeeded.
Well, think about this. I was sitting on this for a while. They can control the editing. Like when we're talking about the show, the Beast crew, Amazon, they can control the editing. They can control which characters get the most screen time. They can control the way the plot moves. The one thing they'll never be able to control is the internet's reaction to certain characters. All it takes is maybe one or two clips on TikTok or Instagram of maybe a certain character zoomed in, like, oh, what's this guy doing over here? And the internet fixates on that, and suddenly there's a whole little TikTok category for 594 edits, whoever that guy was, right? So the way the internet perceives, and this is something that I was discussing with a contestant, because of course we ourselves don't even know who won. We have our theories, but it's not set in stone because of additional NDAs. The person we think won, we think that they won in a way that the internet still isn't going to necessarily like them that much. They might not hate them, but they're going to be sort of like whatever. And that's what I'm most excited for. That's what because the internet is such a its own beast, no pun intended. To where you have no idea how they're going to react when they receive content or information, because when they work as a group, just this mass of anonymous people across the globe, they get a lot of stuff done. They can dox someone in minutes. They can do anything, and so it's pretty interesting to think about what they're going to do when they see certain characters, because all they need is one little clip, and the internet can have a fan favorite.
That's a really interesting concept as well. I don't know what I would say about the winner, because I would have to see the episodes leading up and who wins, but I had that internal conversation with myself a lot. Would it be good for me to win $5 million? And the truth is, you don't know. Like, I like to imagine I would be super like philanthropic with it and do some good things, and it's okay for me to buy a car because I literally don't have one and I'm 23, but I like to imagine I would have got a few goodies, blessed people, saved it. But statistically, lottery winners go bankrupt. Statistically, lottery winners are unhappy. I don't know how a lottery winner compares to a game show winner, but even if you have a good outlook and the internet loves you and you win $5 million, like now just think about life changes. Can you shop? Can you still shop the same? Are you going to be harassed when you go shopping? Are you going to be, it's just, dude, I can't wait to sit down with the winner and just see what their life becomes, because no one even knows. Because even I was looking at the most viewed episode of Survivor over 50 seasons of Survivor. The most viewed episode was 50 million views. Like, mrbeast is going to crush the most viewed episode every season.
He's done that with YouTube videos already, yeah.
And so no one even knows what level of fame is going to come from this. And it's shocking.
In today's age where you got like Hawk Tua getting as big as she is off of what?
Off of just saying hack to her. That's not even. Where's the talent? Where's the talent? Where's the charm? It's ridiculous. I'll tell you, it is ridiculous what they are doing to this nation. They are taking people who are talentless schmucks and giving them a platform. See what she's doing with Bitcoin. What she's doing. She just did a rug pull. She did. Look it up. CoffeeZilla covered it, and it's quite shameful. Let me tell you.
Nowadays, anyone can become famous, and I don't think that's a good thing.
No.
I don't think everyone should be famous, and you shouldn't necessarily strive to be a content creator or even someone who's just producing content if you don't have a goal or you don't have an actual specific desire. I like people who vlog or people who make podcasts with a group of friends because they had one funny conversation in high school and they think everyone wants to listen in now on their stuff. It's like you need to have a vision, you need to have a goal, or else the market or the kind of group, the community becomes oversaturated, full of people who all are in their own heads thinking that their lives, their daily vlogs are really cool, amazing.
Self-glorification, bro.
Yeah.
I've fallen into that too, so I can super relate. But
I mean, me too, kind of.
Can you point that mic more at your mouth?
Whoop. Sorry,
you're good.
Let's turn this into an ASMR. How you doing, folks? It's 494 coming at you. Coming at you live.
Let's change the vibe a little bit. What was your favorite moment on the show?
Okay, so I have one for Vegas and one for the actual show. Did you mean just the show?
Just for the audience, in case this is your first episode watching, Vegas was the YouTube video to compete for a spot on the show, and the show was in Toronto to win the $5 million.
Yeah, you got to win the Vegas first with the 2,000 people to move to Toronto with the 1,000. I think the reason I preface that is because I have a Vegas game that was my favorite, even on top of the entire show.
Really?
Yeah.
Can I guess?
Yeah.
Vegas game that was your favorite on top of the show?
Ahead, yeah.
Even, dude, okay, I don't think it's Boulder, and I don't think it's Flag. Is it platform?
Oh goodness, no, that is like your run of the mill like cookie cutter Jimmy challenge, last to stay on the platform.
I thought it was just maybe the moment of like knowing you're gonna go to Toronto.
Oh, okay, yeah, true. That hadn't sunk in yet. No, it was the banners, the flags.
Really? Why?
Uh-huh. I am a sucker for like really like cool, unique, like I'm a sucker for cool concepts and gimmick type challenges. So this was something we had never seen Jimmy do before, and it was really creative, and it made you think. I love games that really make you think, and have multiple ways of approaching, because that's the one thing Jimmy emphasizes, that you can go ahead with no communication, rush the first flag, or you can talk with your players. You can wait for a while. The waiting thing was cool, and I've never had a challenge that. There was never a challenge in the show that made me sit down and think before I acted, and let alone had time to do that anyway, right?
Dude, now that you point that out,
I loved it.
I'm trying to think. Okay, there was a couple games in physical that were strategic, but honestly, yeah, that was one of the more unique strategy games. But
yeah,
I guess I was just more of sucker for the moment. Like, to me, all the games that got you to the next, like the platform in Vegas, because winning felt like I'm going to Toronto, and then the last bribe game, which was going to the city, and then the helicopter games, to me those were all the most exciting, because it was just like something about unlocking a new location felt really exciting. I don't know.
I agree. I mean, it's tough. It's not like saying it's better by a large margin. It's just my favorite, but they were all so there were some really exceptional games, For No Star, the
For No
platform, right? For No Star.
Bro, I don't know what we can say about that challenge because I don't know how the edit's gonna go.
Oh, I mean, come on, no, there's no way.
You think they're gonna show the whole story, right?
There's no way they wouldn't show that whole thing.
Yeah.
They filmed so much extra just for us, so it's like they have to.
And I think this is one of those moments where I do think mrbeast as a YouTube background comes in handy because he knows authenticity reigns. Whereas I feel like if it was a different game show, it might not. I don't know. That's just my thought.
No, that's a good point, actually, because he knew that in that moment we were all convinced we were going home. And he just capitalized on that. Whether you can argue if that was like morally okay because it was just extra PTSD for no reason at all. But at the end of the day, he saw an error in the system and decided to say, hey, let's film a little bit before they realize that they actually won. And that might be a little weird, but hey, that's what separates him from the rest.
But I also respect him for correcting it because he for the people watching, he did the right thing. He made the winners win even when it hurt people's feelings.
Yeah.
And I guess he had to because he said many times, if we rig the show, we will be in a lot of trouble.
That is true. That is very true. I remember on For No Star, there was I have a weird cry, and so cameras were on me because I have like this angry cry where I furrow my eyebrows. I'm like, it's weird. So there were some cameras seeing that. I was like hugging 991. I was like burying into his shoulder. They might have a good shot of me just like in his
shout out
his trap. And Jeremy. But when the reveal happened, there were the same cameras on me waiting for the reaction because I was completely frozen, and I didn't react at all. And so they were like, we got to go to find someone who will. And I really couldn't celebrate. I tried to, but I couldn't. There was the group. I wasn't in the group of people jumping up and down. You won't see me in the shot because I was just staring. I had not only a couple friends on 4-star, but that was so much more painful for them because to have it ripped away from you, that you won and then you find out you didn't. Whatever we were experiencing for the 30 minutes of agony we were up there, they are now experiencing, but like times 2. Yeah. It was so hard to like smile and laugh and then look over and see them. It was terrible. I couldn't do it. And a couple other people were like that. It wasn't just me. There was like 1 or 2 other people. And it was just tough. It was really tough. But I think that might have, to circle back to the chance, that might have helped me a little bit because I already knew the exact feeling of getting out. So to then get out for real, I was like, well, same thing.
Dude, I think that I was really shocked by how much I loved the other players. Like, I don't think I had any moments where I didn't celebrate. Like, when I won, I celebrated. I felt great. But how real it felt to lose your friends. Because I know, like, the edit, they're obviously going to show people who are friends. I'm sure me and Nelly are going to be friends in the show. But I don't think people understand, like, we're there, no phone, sharing every meal together, every on moment. Not that I am a fan of fraternity hazing, but, like, why does that work? Because shared suffering. And I'm not saying this is nothing like this was all chill stuff, but we go through shared suffering in the sense that you're going through people being eliminated and late night shoots. And again, I don't want the cancel crowd to come after this. Was completely fine. I honestly thought we were treated absolutely incredible, but you bond so much. And when you see people lose, it really didn't feel like a win. Like, it felt like a win to move on, but when you saw your friends walking out, it didn't.
I said exactly that in one of my interviews. I'm like, this doesn't feel like winning. It just feels like moving on without your friends.
And it's so weird how fast your friend groups adapt. I mean, I was lucky to have a lot of my OG friends make it far, but it's like, I remember having really close friends and they go home and you don't have time to like mourn it because you just got to move on. Like,
mentally prepare for the next challenge. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just weird. There's times where like a couple of days would go by and I'd already be new best friends with someone just because the game just pushes you forward like
What
that.
else are you gonna do,
I mean,
man?
like I didn't really know you, and then it was like one night on the island. I'm like, dude, Matt's so funny. Like I love this kid. And then what? 2 days later, we're gone.
Gone, yeah. That is so. It is really trippy. It's like it's got to have some long-term effects on your psyche. I don't know. I'll tell you when this effects show up, but I haven't seen them yet. But there's got to be some long-lasting consequences to our mental state because, like,
right, you're gonna get me canceled by Mr. Beast.
well, no. I am completely fine. Oh man. There's nothing wrong with how they do things over there. But really there wasn't. I mean, they took really good care of us. I remember the sit down with the therapist when I got eliminated.
Yeah.
They gave everyone the opportunity to do that. Not like you had to, but more of a when you or if you ever wanted to get anything off your chest, here's the person to do it with. And I spoke with her for a little bit. I didn't have much to say, but it was really nice. Like we were very much cared for, and it's sort of like, what do you want them to do? They really want authentic, raw emotion, but with that raw, authentic emotion comes negative emotions as well, sadness, heartache, and so that it's a package deal. You have to have, in order to have a really good tension, action-packed, high stakes show, you're going to have some sad, a little bit of trauma, maybe some PTSD even. So you can't avoid that. So the most you can do is treat it, which is what they did. So,
and I think it's also always important when talking about a subject like this to say you could leave at any time. And I personally, not only could you leave at any time, there's things that like after the show was over, like I definitely dwelled on some challenges and I missed life in the city. Like I really missed it. But I think I could speak for myself, and I imagine every contestant, at least in the top 60, would say this, that they would all go back and share the experience. Absolutely. Even if they had no benefit. I bet even if they didn't get paid the $2,000, which everyone got paid, even if the show never aired and I didn't get paid $2,000, I would go back and do it in a heartbeat. And I imagine that most contestants would say that. So it was a good experience. But just to circle back, was that your favorite moment in Toronto, or what was your favorite moment in Toronto? In Toronto. Or just the Prime show. No.
The building definitely wasn't my favorite. That was terrible. Okay. I mean, I never cried harder. That was awful. Oh my gosh. I mean, I was I think that my favorite, I loved the platforms. I loved the platforms in episode 1. Partially because it's where I made my most meaningful connections. Mitsa was his name, right? Misha. I have another friend named Mitsa.
Russian guy?
Yes.
Misha, yeah.
Mitsa, I have a Ukrainian friend named Misha. He was a diagonal platform for me. I forgot his number, but he was diagonal for me. And I don't know if they're ever going to show this. They might. But since episode 1, he kept on looking at me. And I was like, who's this weird guy? He's just like throwing glances at me. And I was like, okay, you know what? If you're going to keep looking at me, we might as well play a game. And I taught him this game, this rhythm game that's a lot like rock, paper, scissors meets rhythm based. And so you can either block, pat, you can reload, pat, and then you can shoot.
Oh, I played this as a kid.
Yeah. And so you can only shoot the guy if they're reloading. If they're blocking, no. And if you're both shooting, then it's a draw. And you have to reload a bullet before you shoot, right? So I taught him that game. And ever since then, whenever Misha would see me, he would just, like, he would crouch down a little bit, in order to play the game. And that happened throughout the entire show up until the helicopters. And who found the ticket? Misha. And I remember looking right into a camera and going, yeah, I'm good. Because he didn't have a lot of friends. And
because he was Russian. So recent-ish, like he didn't have perfect English. So
yeah, no, he didn't. But he was a really great guy. And I spoke with him a lot. They have, in the cabin right before the helicopter, I was comforting him and telling you, like, he was like, I'm ready to go home, ready to done. Right before he found the ticket, he was telling me, I'm ready to go home. I don't want to be here anymore. the first chance they give me a bribe, I'm gone. I don't care who I have to throw under the bus, even though that's pretty dark. I respect it. I was like, you know what? Up front,
Dude,
honest.
This is so crazy to hear behind the scenes because
His mentality
everyone
was-
saw him as like Russian killer, do anything to win.
Oh, his mentality was in the gutter. Was absolutely, and you know, in the hotel waiting to go to the island. I mean, he broke down a couple times.
Wow.
He was in tears, and JC was helping him a lot. JC and the metalhead tattoos. Mike and JC were there for him a lot in the hotel, and because he picked them too, Mike and JC.
Wow.
But anyway, with the platforms, I met him, and in the moment, that episode 1, that little game, that didn't benefit me at all. It was to pass the time. It was bored, and I was like, whatever. And I had no idea it would help me in the long run. I formed this friendship, right? Same thing with Jeff. I saw him over in the corner.
Yeah.
And every time I looked at him after a challenge was over, they have a compilation of me just going, yeah, Jeff, because I'm like, I was so glad he was still in.
I love Jeff.
Why? I don't know. I literally, nothing inside me compelled me to say that. I just saw this cool looking guy. I'm like, that is a sick beard and a sick thing of hair.
The best looking dad I've ever
Silver
seen.
fox, like ultimate. If I could look like a fourth of him when I'm his age, I will be fine. But
well, considering he's still in the game, he's definitely gonna have an audience. But I was thinking, even if he didn't make it far, like he's like the type of guy people are gonna tweet out, like, Silver Fox, hot dad.
Oh yeah. Oh, exactly. On the island when they were egging him on when we were all dancing, it's like,
wait, what happened on that?
They're not showing that part. There was no cameras filming that part. Remember, is when we were. No, we weren't dancing or anything on the island. Nothing like that. Jeff never took his shirt off. Trust me, I would know if he did. So
I don't remember this, so I can't.
You don't. You actually don't.
I don't remember this.
It's crazy. Okay, so yeah. But circling back, sorry, I go off tangents a lot.
Yeah.
It's
that Twitch mentality.
I know it's the I'm jumping around so much, but point is, platforms were where I made a lot of good connections and where the stakes of the show finally like set in for me, and I sort of like really like kind of locked in, like, okay, this is it, this is happening, this is real. My friends beside me are falling through these platforms. I don't even know where they lead because none of them were close enough for me to look over. I never looked over the edge ever.
Really?
So in my mind I was like, oh, they went to the abyss.
I looked over right away. I have a really random question, but I want to ask you now because it won't make sense if we're not talking about platforms. In the early episodes, when someone got eliminated, they gave them a warning and then dropped them. When you got back on the platforms for chance and they dropped you, did they give you a warning?
No.
That's so fun, bro.
They did not give us a warning. So
but it was obviously a lot easier for them to coach the small group of people than
16 people, and you got to remember, like, you could have heard a pin drop. It was so quiet in that room.
Wow.
Every other challenge, I'm sure, physical, screaming, yelling, egging you on.
I wonder what mental was, though. I could see mental going both ways.
Mental could have gone both ways, but yeah, since we were, but I think the combination of us being indoors in like a sealed room with only 16 people, and Jimmy, just the only noise you'd hear is drop the next platform. Drop the next, and then just, and then you turn around and your friend's gone. And
how many rounds did you make it?
Like 50, like 4, I don't know.
Wait,
platforms.
54 platforms. There's 100 total.
Yeah, there's 100, and they had to go through until. So I went pretty far, and the thing is, they're gonna show it. So it's funny that the audience, you guys are gonna know this before I do, but. Not only Jimmy, but Carl and 991 at one point referenced or acknowledged the platform directly in front of me. Carl asked, "Do you want to move at all? You want to move?" I'm like, "Nope, staying right here." Jimmy too. "Oh, there's not many more. There aren't many more platforms. 494. You might want to move, like the platform in front of you." And then Jeremy 991, being a very religious contestant, saying, "I'm feeling very like." Compelled by the platform in front of you, and I didn't listen to any of them, and I fell. So when the show comes out, if the platform in front of me was still up, I'm gonna.
I think I talked to Jeremy off camera, and I'm pretty sure he said that there was a platform that he thought, which was still up when he dropped, and I think he was one of the last people to drop, so it probably was good.
he felt compelled about it, and I didn't, because I'm religious too, but
Yeah.
I was like, I guess I
I
need
know,
to.
but it's hard to know with that kind of stuff. You mean, like Jeremy felt it and he didn't move, so
That is true. Yeah, it was terrible. Jimmy was next to me for the majority of the platform dropping because I was next to the aisle. And he goes off camera. I'm like, Jimmy, can you walk anywhere else? Is there anywhere else you want to go right now? He's like, you're easy to make fun of. I'm like, why is that, Jimmy? Because I'm ginger? Like what do you mean by that, Jimmy? Like, come on. Like, wow, that hurts or something, I guess. And then Carl passing by me too, because he was a pretty fun guy. He was poking fun. He's like, get this guy out. He's not in the script anymore. And I'm like, okay, all right, but not scripted, by the way.
This podcast, if I post this with no cuts, this is gonna be the most clipped. They were traumatic. They called me ginger.
They called me ginger, and they were traumatic, and they called me a stinky baby. And, they didn't. They gave me like 4 hours of sleep, and
sometimes they would film at like 3 a.m. or something, like to do what to make our.
They would film late, but then they would let us sleep through the day.
Oh yeah, I love how you're being like super thoughtful, like more context. They let us sleep, or more context.
Bro, I have to, because
therapists.
Like, if I sent them this podcast first, they'd be like,
oh, okay, sure. I have to preface then. There's nothing that I say in the podcast that I personally think is a bad thing. When I allude to the fact that there's trauma, I just joke about it because I don't care. When I allude to the fact that they make us film in the morning, I don't mind being tired. So this is just me personally. I never had that mentality of like they are either mistreating us intentionally or
Well, it's just important to give the full story, because like they always gave us 8 hours. I mean, I didn't count all the night, but it would if we filmed in the night, they'd go into we'd sleep in the morning. If we filmed in the day, we'd sleep at night, which has its difficulties to switch, but nothing.
I slept for a day and a half.
Really?
One of the days I slept for a day. Like I tried to like.
Wait, no, you didn't sleep for a day.
No. I slept for a day. I swear to you, I slept for like over 24 hours, to the point where Korn, Akira, they were asking where I was. I came out and they're like, we thought you got eliminated, dude. Where were you? Like if you interview them, they'll remember it, because and Dino as well. Dino as well was like, dude, I thought you were dead, because he kept on looking at my bunk, and because I think it was after the cube. Yeah. I don't remember exactly, but I said, you know what? We have a while till our next challenge. I'm just gonna see how long I can sleep. And it was the really hot day as well. We had a really, really hot day. So it was, I think it might have been even before the potato sack race. But either way, I slept for almost, like, definitely the full day, but into the night as well. I woke up at 3 and I like walked around and I came back inside. So I mean, there were definitely like some moments where there was a lot of downtime. It's not like we were being like pushed, corralled, moved around every second. We had so much winding downtime, so much time people were working out, playing games, playing chess.
Bro, I can't speak for everyone, but I love my time in the city so much. Like, so many days I wake up, and I'm not someone who's unhappy. Like, I love my life. I love podcasting. I love what I do. I love traveling. But some days I'm like, dude, I wish I could live in the city. Like, I enjoyed it that much.
Dude, I feel you. I completely understand what you mean. It was like a simple life, I guess.
It's just so fun. I think there's nothing like being surrounded by people who give you energy, especially if you're extroverted and you feed off that. But
true, you're not just living there. It's like you are a community. Like, I felt a community, because if someone was a little bit too quiet, wandering off by themselves, someone would go sit down and talk to you. Like, and if not a contestant, at the very least a cameraman. It's like you would always be spoken to. If you really wanted to. Of course, if you tried hard enough, you could hide yourself away. But it was such a unique experience that it's kind of hard to put into words, to be completely honest. But I'm honestly really grateful for it. It taught me a lot.
You know what was one of my favorite off-camera moments?
What?
When we were you and Jeff staying up late on the island.
Oh man, dude, that was great. That was so great. In Panama, we had cabins, and I was I wasn't, not cabins. I guess they wouldn't be called that, right? What were they?
I don't even shacks, but
Shacks.
but then
That makes it
shacks
sound
make them
ghetto.
sound.
Yeah, that's
It was like a. I mean, what I loved about the island is that
gazebo.
no,
No, is
the
that not even
gazebo would have
close?
been like where the massage thing kind of.
Oh, that's what a gazebo is. I don't
Not
even
not
know.
really. They got to be more round, but kind of. But the thing I loved about Panama is I've watched various.
Define gazebo. Sorry. A roof structure that offers an open view of the surrounding area, typically used for. Yeah, you're right. You're right. It wouldn't be gazebo. How silly of me.
I have watched many shows in my life, whether it be via Shark Week or Survivor, that have a remote island. And it's one of those things where you dream, at least me, like I've dreamed about going to a remote island, but you can't go to a remote island unless you end up on a game show where you're with some survival expert. And it was just set up in a way where there's private chefs and villas, but it was really remote. Like, remember the weather and the lightning?
Yeah.
And
One night it was insane. Came down hard.
dude, it was just so surreal, and something about that ambiance made every conversation great. And when we sat, it was my first time connecting with you and really deeply. And we were talking about heavy stuff I'm not going to get into on the podcast, but like religious, like 3 different religious perspectives, and just so whole. Like, I don't know from your or Jeff's perspective, but it just felt like such a good conversation, like seeing sides, ambiance, midnight on a private island. Like, dude, it was one of those conversations that I'll think about for a long time.
That was probably my lowest point in the show.
Really?
Right before you walked in with just Jeff and I. Jeff saw me sitting there, and I don't like to be that guy that sits alone so that he can get someone to come over and comfort him.
Yeah.
I didn't want that, but he came over regardless because it's Jeff. It's a silver fox. He's amazing.
Silver Fox. I love that guy.
And so I let him, and he sat down, and I was really having a hard time. I just didn't want to keep going.
Why?
Because I felt like I was there for a reason that wouldn't happen, and it's a weird way to word it, but I guess let's put it this way: I didn't want to be there entirely for the money. Like I said, of course, who would say no to $5 million? I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But I wanted to be there to prove people wrong, to make people proud, to entertain, and to have a good time. And I felt as though because I didn't have a mindset of the money, I felt rushed past. I felt like I was being breezed past, and not being given enough time to hear my story and hear my my life. You know, for the interview, for instance. Mine was the last one of the day, and they decided to pack up instead. And they're like, oh, 494, yeah, no, we have you right here. You tomorrow, first thing tomorrow.
Yeah.
Come tomorrow. I'm like, and this is right when Misha's getting out on TV. I'm getting interviewed.
Yeah.
And so I'm like the third person on top of that. I just didn't feel prioritized. And like I said, I'm not trying to be like, I didn't want to be some sort of main character or anything, but at the very least, I wanted to be given enough to where people could look and really understand who I am. That's what I want. I want people to see who I am and understand my motives, understand what I do, understand where I want to be, who I want to be, or who I want to become. And I feel as though I didn't get that. And then obviously it was also just standard stuff, just wanting to go home and stuff, missing it. But Jeff gave me some great advice, and this is another reason why he's the best. On my prediction board, I put him as the winner. And
Let's go.
Yeah,
He was high up on mine. I can't remember which.
What a guy. So he gave me amazing advice that I apply. You know, I'm gonna apply for the rest of my life. He said that he's, you know, most of the happiness and joy that you're looking for, you can find in giving to other people. So if you're feeling empty, if you're feeling sad, go cheer someone else up, and that's going to cheer you up as a result. And we both kind of agreed on that. And after our conversation, we, walked back. It might have been another night, but we walked back to the main area, the gazebo, and we walked around and both just spoke to other people. I remember sitting down with Gage and just saying, "Hey, Gage, tell me about your life. Tell me about your family, about your job." For no other reason than I want to hear about you. I want to hear about your story. And walking away from that, it made me feel better. I looked at Jeff and I like motioned him across the room. I'm like, "How did that make me feel better?" He's like, "I don't know." He's like, "I just do it, and I can't tell you how." I'm like, "That's crazy." So I guess I kind of already knew that before the show. I've had those experiences, something similar, but I had forgotten about it. When you do content, you're alone in your room a lot. And so to go from that to such an extreme social situation was a big, I hadn't realized how introverted I had become over the years. In high school, I was really loud. I was a theater kid in high school, which is kind of, I that might not have been a good idea to put that out on the internet. So, I mean, just edit that part out. I'm just kidding.
That's funny.
But I was a theater kid in high school. I was loud. I was obnoxious. I was annoying. I was all over the place. And when I started to pursue content, I'm in my room all day. I'm drawing. I'm editing. And when I got to Beast Games, I had this like realization hit me that, I'm not as extroverted as I once was. I'm starting to, I would never shake, but now I'm shaking again in front of a camera, and I've never shaken. In high school, I would perform in front of crowds in musicals and plays. So why is that coming back? And I realized that social skills are like a talent or a skill that you constantly need to refine. You don't just get it once and you have it for the rest of your life. And I realized that I kind of lost it, and I would get nervous on camera. Some of the first shots they have in me or Vegas are terrible. It's like me screaming and being way over the top, because I still had to smooth out those kinks. And by Canada, I was pretty okay, but still, it just hit me that I wasn't cut out for this, I felt. And that night,
you can go.
That it had all caught up to me, I guess, that night, where I was finally like, I'm not as extroverted as I used to be. I'm not as good with people as I used to be, because I have kind of holed myself away in pursuit of my content and stuff. I've lost the ability to make connections with people, and I realized how important that was. And Jeff, of course, being a master at it, that's what made him so popular, so cool. So like people were attracted to him because he took a real interest in your life and in your passions. And when you spoke, he listened, he'd nod his head, he'd make eye contact. He was just a great role model.
He's a great listener.
In that sense. So that night was a big deal for me. You two really helped. You and Jeff really pulled through right there.
Well, I think you're giving me more credit, because I actually kind of said I think I had a really good heart behind everything I said, but like I was pushing both you and Jeff because I had a different view. But I always do. We had that was just for the audience. We had kind of a religious debate between three different perspectives, but it was so from love. It was like, let's talk about the differences. And it wasn't like, I'm not expecting to convert you guys, but it was just like, I've never heard someone who represented your viewpoint with such like honesty and authenticity. And it was like so cool. And I don't know, it was just a really, really good conversation. It's like one of those conversations where if you were to say like, should I have this conversation? Everyone would be like, no, don't.
Yeah.
Like, that's how you
ruin a friendship.
That's how you ruin friendships. That's how you make enemies. But it just felt so good to me. And it's funny because if I had known that you were having that kind of night, I probably wouldn't have probed that kind of conversation. But I'm glad to hear that
something to take my mind off it. That's what it was.
I'm glad to hear it wasn't. But I love authenticity, and like the reason that I was attracted to you guys was because I heard you spieling about your art. And to me, whenever someone creates in their passion about what they do, even like, dude, no offense, but I don't care about drawing. Like I don't look at drawings. I don't really care about them. But when I was like, dude, this guy's talking about drawing and he's making it exciting. He's talking about apps, fighting apps and brands, second brands. And I guess I've always tried to live by that thing that you're describing, Jeff, with is like be interested, just genuinely be interested in people. And I don't know. I mean, I really enjoyed that conversation. It's so weird to hear you say that because I was on the flip side. I'm an extrovert. I feed off people. I love being in new locations and traveling. So to me, that was the peak of my show. So it's cool to hear. It's cool to hear someone who just had a completely different experience and to meet in the middle and to have the silver fox there.
Yeah, the mediator. There was absolutely no hard feelings from that. I think that especially when it comes to on the topic of religion, staying light, something like, for instance, mine, it's pretty easy. There's quite a few people who do get locked in a certain mindset, and that's like the worst thing you can do, because there's no room for open-mindedness. There's no, you're completely dead set in your ways, and that's just, it's so hard to talk to those types of people, and it just, nothing gets done from it. I think the ability to think that you might be wrong in a certain subject goes a very long way. And that doesn't mean that you have less faith in that thing. Yeah. That just means that you realize that your story is one of many, many, many. And so many experiences have led you to that belief, while someone else has an entirely different set of life experiences that led them to this belief. And Jeff was way more like good on that than I was. Yeah. He was amazing when it came to just simply asking questions. Yeah. There was no harm in just saying, okay, and why do you believe that? Okay, but there's this thing, and then there's this thing. How does that work when these two things correlate?
Me and Jeff had a lot of those conversations. And you know something? I tell my other friends in my religion, and they think that I'm like dumb for doing this, or they think it's like a bad thing to do. But I tell them that whenever I enter a religious conversation, I tell myself, whether I actually act this out is a different story, but I tell myself, if this person presented more evidence to me, I would convert to the religion. Because the reason I practice that is it's like whenever I'm talking or sharing faith with someone, if I want to have any influence on them and I'm expecting them to listen to what I'm saying, but I don't grant them the same respect, then like, what am I doing? It's like it's like people who sell a product they wouldn't buy. And so I always tell myself, dude, whoever I'm talking to, if they present me more. Now, I don't think that's a fair statement in the sense that like you can't undo your childhood experiences. So no one's going to go into a religious conversation unless they're completely atheist and even then they have their own belief background. So everyone's going to have a bias, but the more you're able to say like, dude, I'm willing to accept that I could be wrong. And I haven't up to this point said I was wrong. So, maybe my bias is still playing out, but I just try to have that practice just so that I take people seriously. Cause it's like, I don't want to ever want people to listen to my religious or faith spiels and then not listen to theirs. And like you said, so much of it comes back to, experiences. I don't want to even blunder, Jeff's religious view, but there was one point where he told me he explored an interesting religious view, and the reason he explored it was because his son had the creatine deficiency problem, and this person he really respected was like teaching him how to pray for that problem with his son, and that person really cared about his son, and therefore he was willing to like consider those beliefs and look into it. And I'm like, wow, that's honestly a really noble reason to do something. And dude, I have friends in all religions, and like I respect them all. I do stick to the idea that I think only one can be right, because I think if two things contradict each other, but I respect them all. I love them all. And I could be wrong. I want to make that clear. I could be wrong, but
you gave me a lot to think about. And I think that people are afraid of being wrong. One, because, it hurts your ego a little bit. There's a little bit of an ego, damage right there. But people also are afraid of being wrong because, especially when it comes to something like religion, that's something you build your entire life, your moral compass, everything on. And so something like that, it's not like you're wrong about, I don't know, what cereal is best. It's like, if you're wrong about religion, then dude, what are you doing here? What's your purpose? It's like you're rethinking all of these things that were so clear to you at one point that now are foggy, and something like that takes a bigger toll on people. So it's almost like being wrong in religion almost feels like you lost a part of like your identity, like who you are. So it's scarier. And so that fear, it prevents people from being open-minded because they so desperately want to be right so that they don't have to face that terrifying reality that you got to like reshape a lot of your life because this might be a bad thing, whatever.
Yeah, the average person doesn't want to be wrong about a math problem. And so like you said, your religion is your identity, and it's even things outside of you. It could be your family, it could be your connections, it's literally, like, depending on how serious you take it, it's so, I respect anyone who's open-minded about it because it really is one of the most, to me, it's the most personal thing to me, but into a lot of other people, it's the most personal thing to them. So
I think that, at least to me, this is what religion should be for people. It should be a cornerstone in your life. It shouldn't be like an accessory in your tool belt that you just whip out when it's convenient. You know, I just need to pray because I need something, whatever. It's a lifestyle.
I want to win $5 million.
Because I want to win $5 million. It should be a lifestyle for most people. It should be something that you live in your daily life and practice constantly, because of the way that it's phrased in whatever sacred text you read, in whatever information you read up on your religion. Most religions are in-depth instructions on how to live your life. And so there's no way you can passively float along the top. You have to be in it. So when it comes to something like that, to be wrong in that, like I said, like I personally don't mind being wrong. If on the yacht, I had an argument with Carl that Toy Story 4 is a good movie. He genuinely thinks that, which is crazy, by the way, which is crazy. Jimmy, you need to do a inventory with one of your employees, Carl, because he has one of the most L takes in the history of the world. Are you kidding me? Toy Story 4. Okay. All right. No, we're not doing this. We're not doing this, Auzi.
Yeah.
We could, but we're not. And I can be wrong in that. I don't care.
Yeah.
But religion, I mean, whoa. I mean, man, if I'm wrong in religion, I got to rethink so many things. I got to sit down and like literally look so deep inside myself, because like so many things, like even like personality wise, so many connections with family, it should be such a deep part of your life to where it's like, it's just a big thing. So
it's a big thing.
Yeah, it's a little scary for people, but to have that conversation, you gave me a lot of things to think about. And there are still things that I don't have an answer on for you, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, bro, we'll have that
bro
off camera.
Yeah. But anyway.
Yeah, dude, that was one of my favorite moments. But let's get into enough of the Beast games. Let's get into like a little bit of who you are. I mean, I'm really happy with how this interview has played out, because I think you've gotten to share yourself. The only thing I'm nervous about is
this can be in the extended cut. Do you have a Patreon or some sort of exclusive content?
Yeah, I don't.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean,
who knows? I might have to if these episodes get big enough.
The extended cut, you're going to get the full interview, and we go over some pretty. See, the cool thing is we can, since it's edited, we can just tell people that we talked about anything, and they'll have to believe us, because they're like, oh, he just cut it out. But somewhere it's out there that we talked about. 2 hours of this interview. We just got done with 2 hours of talking about the Kung Fu Panda trilogy. I say trilogy because the fourth one really shouldn't even be regarded as a movie. It's so awful. So
Kung Fu Panda is my favorite animated movie, and when you told me the fourth one didn't have the Furious 5 in it, I was like,
dude, it's that's the whole concept of like actors become too big for the budget. They just couldn't hire Jackie Chan.
But why would you do that? Like, you can't. If it's the second movie and you want to eliminate some characters, okay. But like the fourth, you're just gonna take 5 of the main characters out of the fourth movie. It doesn't make.
That's the problem when ideas or corporations grow too big. They have to prioritize money over a good story, and I think that every media group eventually crosses that line where I'm doing this for a passion, I'm doing this for an idea I have, I'm doing this because I genuinely love it, and then they cross line and they're no longer studio, now they're a business, now they have mouths to feed, now they have food to put on the table. And in their defense, that's not necessarily a bad mentality. If this is your job, this is your livelihood, of course that's important. But movies and media and film, which have the power to change people's lives, even movies as silly as Kung Fu Panda. I know it's kind of silly, but Pixar, Disney, like they shaped childhoods and they shaped like a generation. And so something that I feel is that like special should be handled very delicately and should never become a business. It should always be looked at. Of course, that's just wording. Of course, it's still a business, but sort of like in the just signifying sort of that it should never be looked at as a business. It should be a studio first, a business second, because if you're making money, that's awesome. That's great. But that should come as a secondary thing. Your main priority should be changing lives with amazing stories and amazing characters.
So let's say this podcast does really well. The world sees it. What would you want the world to know about you? Or just what would you, if you had a message you wanted to share with the world, what would it be?
Well, I would say that well, first off, I wouldn't say I have a message, honestly.
That's okay.
There's too many of those already going around. I don't want to throw mine into the mix.
Why?
But because there's so many voices, you know,
But you're like one of the
saying so many things.
You're one of the succeeding voices. That's why it's surprising me, because you've taken that narrative a couple times of like, I don't know if my voice is worthy, or if it's I'll just sit this one out because there's so many inputs. But it surprises me that you say that, because you have one of the, like, do you know how many people try social media and never amount to anything? That your voice has stood out.
It's a good point. I mean, I think of it more like this. If someone were to ask me my opinion on cars, or religion or anything, I got popular for my art. I'm the funny art guy, right? And that's all I want to be. That's my whole goal. So my political views, they shouldn't matter. My life advice shouldn't matter. My opinion on cars, religion, because that's not what people signed up for. That's not what people, when someone pressed the follow button on my account, they said that I like his art, I want to see more of it. I like his stories, I want to see where it goes. They didn't, hop on board for any other reason. And so that doesn't mean my opinion on those matters matter any less. That just means that I need to stay in my lane. A lot of people, little pet peeve of mine, they like to use a platform as a political agenda. They like to take this following and let it get to their head that, my opinion matters more because of this large number, or my views on certain things matter more, or I have a responsibility to talk about certain things that are happening in the political world, whatever. You don't have that responsibility unless you're a political page. Or unless you're a religious page. Other than that, your comments and your views and your opinions and your advice need to be kept in check. That means that, like I said, you're still, of course, entitled to have them. Freedom of speech, everyone's entitled to have them. But kept in check as in, if they're not kept in check, slowly it feeds into an ego, and suddenly you get content creators, the mainstream ones, who are like, my opinion is more than the average person because of a large number online. So it's more so that, I know who I am. I'm the funny art guy, and I enjoy being that guy. And that's all I'm going to be. So I guess my message would be, or my what was the other one that you said?
Like, what would you leave the world with, or what do you want the world to know about you?
Know about me. I mean, mine would probably be just like, check out my art.
That's so interesting, dude, because I feel like I have a very different outlook. But maybe it's because I'm in the podcast niche.
You're a whole different beast. Again, no pun intended. Wow.
Another thing, though, it's not just the podcast niche. The podcasters I look up to are the ones who haven't niched down. So like, I mean, Joe Rogan's just such an easy example to say, but like Joe Rogan will talk to actors, he'll talk to musicians, he'll talk to random business people, he'll talk to political candidates. And I'm not saying he's my biggest inspiration ever, but I like the freedom he has to explore many different interests.
Okay, yeah.
But I also really respect what you're saying, because that phenomenon of people thinking they're special because they have a following next to their name, that's very real.
Hawk Tuah Girl is a great example, honestly. Suddenly, her opinions and her takes and her thoughts, they are monitored and they're microscoped and they're kept under observation. She has a podcast because suddenly now we want to hear what the girl who made a joke about spitting on a wiener. Now we want to hear about what she thinks. Now we want to hear her thoughts. We don't. No one did before that, and no one does now. It's really not important.
So like it is, man.
We don't need to give these people platforms. And so yeah.
So okay, but then what do you think of someone like Joe Rogan?
Joe Rogan has made a career on that specific niche. So I think it's an exception for him. And if anything, look at how
it's like not a niche though.
Well, look at how he conducts his podcasts. He's very rarely talking about himself the entire time. It's always like Silver Fox asking questions.
Fox, let's go.
Asking questions, invested in the other person. He thinks that it is whoever he's talking to on the other side of that table, it's always an honor for them to be, it's a privilege for him to have them on. He wants to get to know them more. That's all he really aims to do. He aims to find middle ground. With Kamala Harris, the podcast that never happened, he was really looking forward to it because, in his words, he said that I really just want to ask her questions. And I really want to just get to know her as a person.
Yeah.
And that's all he wanted to do. And that's all he wants to do with all of his
interesting
interviewees. What was the interviewees?
Yeah. Wait, so I have a question, or I have a quote that I think is related, and I want your opinion on it.
Well, yeah.
What do you think about this? Fast success builds ego. Slow success builds character. True or not? Why?
I don't think that's true. Fast success builds ego. Slow success builds character.
Okay, before you answer though, think about Hawk Tuah. Joe Rogan.
I'm sorry. That sentence out of context. Before you answer, think about Hawk Tuah. That's insane. Okay, let me tell you, I've never in my 25 years of life ever imagined someone would tell me to think of Hawk Tuah before I answer a question. But I will.
But they both have podcasts. Joe Rogan built his podcast over a decade interviewing 2,000 people. She built her podcast over an interview talking about that thing.
Talking about willies.
and one of them has a crazy ego. And I mean, we can debate Joe Rogan's, but do you see how, in that sense, that quote might have played out?
Yes. Yeah, for sure. I think that if you look at it in that angle, yes. I look at it in the sense that some people have very, very, let me collect my thoughts. Okay, cool. The fact that someone gets a huge burst in popularity right away, that fact alone isn't enough for me to make an assumption on their character, how they did that. Who knows how long they worked before that blow up to get to where they are. I know that I was drawing for quite a bit, practicing my skills. And then I got 30K in about a month. That was my first big blow up.
Wow.
30K in a month, that's could be looked at as quick success. It didn't really build an ego for me at all. It just made me a little bit nervous and eager to please these new fans. So I think that in a different I don't think that is, I think it's a good quote. I think there's some truth in it, but I don't think
doesn't
captures everything. Yeah.
I think you're probably right too. And something that we could take out even of my own example of like the Hawk Tuah girl was literally talking about Hawk Tuah before she was famous. So you could have probably predicted that if you made
practicing.
I'm not saying it would have been 100% better, but like if someone was having some sort of intellectual, deep humility conversation, that person blew up overnight.
Yeah.
then maybe they would have performed better than Hawk 2. Who knows?
Yeah.
But you're right. It's not encompassing.
You look at a crypto guy who spends maybe months studying on how the market works just so that he can finally have his big trade and then make hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then everyone sees that as quick success, but they didn't see behind the curtains. He was working for like 6 months studying the market or whatever.
So question for me, as someone who follows Jesus, dude, one of my biggest fears is one of my biggest goals is to gain a following because I want to be able to have a career doing what I love. And to do that, I need to have followers who give me income but one of my fears is just getting a following and just literally becoming the villain you described. Like, I don't want to ever have an ego. And it's so, I've been on YouTube 5 years. I'm about to get my first YouTube check after 5 years, over 300,
let's go.
400. Yeah, that's
exciting. Awesome. Good for you. Congratulations, man.
I could see, like, let's say these Beast Games pods blow up.
Yeah.
I'll go quick and because ego not only comes from the following, but it can come from the work. I freaking grinded this for 5 years behind the scene. No one saw this. Like, I know what I'm talking.
I deserve this sort of thing. Yeah.
And I mean, I do, I even have moments like that now. Like, I don't think I ever feel better than people, but I'll have moments where I'll be like, dude, I'll just be like talking to other YouTubers. I'm like, they don't understand I'm 5 years deep in this. And I haven't made a penny off it. How do you recommend just staying humble? Because I think you've seemed to do a good job from what I can tell.
Well, I mean, let's say that I've been in the art. That was weird, for like 3 years now. Yeah. Almost 4. In that time, I've accumulated. We're almost at 320K on Instagram, and we got a little Patreon, we got Twitch, we've got a little Discord community. When I look at those 320-ish thousand people, I don't look at them as each one is enthralled in my work. They think about Lapis. They enjoy his future work. They're looking forward to it. They're talking about it and discussing it in comments. I think that the average person thinks of it, nowhere near that deep. They go, oh, this is cool. I'll follow to see how it goes. And then maybe in a couple months they unfollow, whatever. It's like I think in business there's this like 70-30 rule, that 30% of your fan base will usually buy something that you tell them to, or go do something that you tell them to do. Basically, like 30% in reality is like your actual fan base. So, I mean, staying humble is like, it also heavily depends on your work. Like for me, staying humble is very easy because I don't show my face at all. Like, the majority of my fans don't even know my face, and they don't even have to know who I am in order to enjoy my content. So it almost feels like my work
helps.
Yeah, my work is popular, not me. And so, because you look at my Twitch in comparison to my Instagram, it's night and day. So versus someone who's putting themselves out there, who instead, for me, my art is the content, you are the content. And so that's like almost two different types of content creators, which is marginally harder for you, to be honest.
I don't know if you know the name of this podcast. The name of the podcast is Respectfully Inspired. And part of the reason I named it not my name was because I didn't want it to be like the Joe Rogan show or the Chris Williams show or the Auzi Films show, because I felt like if it was attached to my name, I'd be more likely to grow an ego. So I gave it a name, which maybe is a silly point because my face is still on all the episodes, but it was just like a little thing where I'm like, let me put this shield up. I guess, dude, I mean, you just know me from the game, but in high school, I was kind of lonely. I was depressed. I had to glow up after high school. And I think that loneliness and sadness made me constantly seek others' approvals. And so there's this concept of primal questions. It's like, what question do you see the world through? And the one I see it through is, am I wanted? Because of the way people didn't want me in high school, I've like strived to be wanted. But now that I've like grown in my relationship with God, I realize, no, that's not good. I should want God to be wanted because God's what helped me, and I want God to help others. Mm-hmm. But I do have that fear of like just, I even think it goes into this career choice. I do love conversations. I'm very passionate about what you have to say. I care about it. I love talking. But I also think this was a career that could make me feel wanted. It's answering that primal question. It's like, oh, I might get to associate with the coolest players on Beast games, or I might get and again, it's not as black and white as you think. Like, it's not like someone's fully humble or someone's fully ego filled, but it's like, even just in my insecurities, I see it play out, and it's like, I don't know what will happen if the show blows up, but I'm always just trying to like be a step ahead.
Yeah.
Preventative rather than reactive.
Yeah. I mean, you might just need a shift in your mentality, or you might just need a shift in your perspective. Don't look at it as trying to stay ahead or trying to be accepted. You're finding your purpose, and your purpose might be this podcast, and it's not an ego rather than you genuinely enjoying your purpose. For instance, I love my art. I think I'm pretty good at it. I have some room to improve, specifically on feet, the abdomen, like right there. No, stop it! Get out of my head!
Well, I can't believe I said that. That's so wrong for my show. I apologize to my viewers.
No, it's okay.
I like to talk about God on this show.
and then
so my fourth.
We've gone from God, Haktua. The scale is like
the juxtaposition
off the deep
is
end on both the yeah. But instead of, it's all about just perspective. Instead of looking at it as like I have this ego, more so I am proud of what I do. I think it's good quality work. It's like a businessman selling himself. He has to believe in himself first. It's that. So, I mean, that's how you need to look at it. Because I think if you worry too much, like, do I have an ego? It's going to come across as like what I did in, for a good portion of my content. It made me unconfident, and fans can like I was saying earlier, the internet is ruthless. Like the internet can sniff out the littlest bit of insecurity or discomfort or like just anything, and they'll prey on it until that person either gets canceled or something happens to them. And the internet usually won't stop until something happens to the person who's under the limelight, whether that's a good or a bad thing. And so they pick up on whatever energy you give out. And they will make a judgment, and then boom, your career's decided. So
that's true. And what you said in there, like, or you kind of imply in there, is like sometimes people think humility is just acting like you're not good at what you do, which is not real humility.
Yeah. It's deeper than that. Humility is a lot more than that. Yeah. Because some people do that just to score, like, I don't know, like pity, sympathy points. Like, oh, look at him, he's so human. But it is obviously more than that. But the thing is, personalities show after a long period of time. You can't make a judgment call on a person in a couple of days. So as long as you're consistent in your character and who you are, then that's all you can do at the end of the day. And the thing is, when it comes to this podcast, when it comes to my art, when it comes to anything, the most that we can do is show our best selves to the internet, to whoever watches it. And at the end of the day, how they choose to respond is up to them. But it's like that, saying in sports, leave it all on the field. As long as you give your best to your audience, you can't control how they're going to react, which is a little unfortunate and scary. It is a scary thought, but it's the reality. So that's kind of all you can do at the end of the day.
Well, Matthew, this has been a lovely conversation.
Yeah.
I really want to, whatever you're willing to do, hit all your impressions just one time for the loyal fans who watch the end.
Oh, heck yeah. Okay.
What do you have? Yeah, just go through what you can do in the moment. And
Topeka, Kansas. I don't really have that many, to be honest. I used to have a lot, and it's all like the stereotypical ones. It's like the classic. I mean, I've got Kermit, I've got Elmo, I've got Mickey Mouse, I've got Trump, I've got Obama.
You have Obama?
I've got, you never heard my Obama?
Dude, we start with Obama.
Well,
say the voices you have in Obama.
Okay, well,
my list of voices, they are relatively small. I don't have too many, but the ones that I do have are certified bangers. We've got Mickey Mouse from Walt Disney. We've got Donald Trump, the 40, who cares, president of the United States. I certainly don't. We've got Kermit the Frog, which is a little similar to Obama. All you got to do to go from Obama to Kermit is you just got to add a little bit more congestion in your throat, and then you've reached Kermit the Frog. And and then Mickey's not too far away. Mickey's like, I don't actually. I used to be able to do the gingerbread man from Shrek. I can't do him anymore though because my it was in high school and my voice was high. But he's like the Muffin Man. Yeah.
You were doing Kermit to JP on.
Was I?
Yeah.
Was I doing Kermit to? When was this?
On the island, you said Kermit was a good lead into Jordan Peterson.
Kermit.
Oh, he was similar to Jordan. You're right. Kermit is pretty close to Jordan Peterson. I can't get it, but.
I thought you did it pretty good.
It was okay. Let me try it again. Let me try to channel my Jordan. Okay, I got to think Canadian. I got to think rats. Because there's this funny clip of him talking about rats on the internet. It's my favorite clip of Jordan Peterson.
Hey, there's one of him talking about crabs too.
Yes, ironically, my favorite clip of him isn't something that what he's known for. It's when he talks about rats. Look it up, Jordan Peterson rats on YouTube.
We'll play it right here, and then we'll do next.
Rat is this. The rats are all like this. The rat goes like this. So the rat's like this. The normal rat is like this. That's the normal rat. Like this, like this.
Look up. It's a funny edit because he's like,
and so the thing is that you got to remember when you
make your bed in the morning or something, because he has that rant about if you don't make your bed, you're not going to be a productive human being or something. It's like, and this, what's really going on and what's really sad with this generation is they don't make their beds anymore, and they say that really takes a toll on your mental psyche because, well, then you go and you I don't know. I don't even know. I haven't watched the clip.
It was pretty good, bro.
But yeah, it was okay. Because it is similar to Kermit, but yeah, Obama's kind of my number 2, I guess, with Trump. But yeah, I don't know.
Oh, that was good. Well, tell the people where they can find you. Any last words, and we'll wrap it up.
Cool. Well, I'm Lapis Lancer on all platforms. LAPIZ LANCER on Twitch, Instagram. Obviously I have a little Discord community, little internet. Actually, let's do another take on that.
Okay. All right, dude, run it back.
Oh man, I'm not seamless enough. I gotta sound so perfect.
Let's do no cuts, but we'll cut.
No cuts?
We'll cut an hour and a half into the show, so you're gonna redo the outro.
Oh, you don't do cuts at all?
Well, no, I probably will do cuts this episode, but usually I try to do no cuts.
You'll do cuts this episode. I wonder why.
Well, I think all the Beast games. Well, I'm definitely gonna have to cut this because
this guy. Why didn't you? You gotta take it from the top. Take 2. You got to preface going into the like, hey, by the way, I don't do cuts.
No, but I'm not doing that. Otherwise, I would have prefaced it.
Because that is insane though. Like to even strive for no cuts. It's like,
I just think it makes you more authentic. But with this specifically, I don't want I think the easiest way for them to deny my interviews is anything that sounds like slandering the show. So I'm not committing to.
Oh no, dude, you're overthinking, man. I don't think anyone's gonna do that.
Okay, well, whatever. I'm not committing to no cuts for the Beast Games podcast, but I have been cutting actually recently. But when I first started the podcast, I did no cuts because I just thought it would bring out more authenticity.
That is true. Some people. I mean, I don't know. I don't. Yeah. It depends on how deep people look into it, but I think for the most part, it's something good to strive for.
That's kind of what I landed on, is like holding it as like a North Star never break thing is kind of dumb, but striving for it seems good.
Yeah. It's so funny. It's like, yeah, I used to strive for no cuts. Then Matthew came along and said a bunch of terrible stuff
and
that
he said Hawk 2 of 50
and like slandered the show. I did not, by the way. I did not. That's I don't engage in slander.
I love Jimmy Donaldson.
I love Jimmy Donaldson. I love his money so much. It's so great. It's very good. It'll be mine someday. Invite me back. Season 2, ladies and gentlemen, the Don is gonna be there.
Okay, so yeah, Lapiz Lancer, LAPIZ, Instagram and Twitch, and then on my Instagram, all of my links are there in my bio, so makes it real easy for the people. That's pretty much it for me, though, I guess.
Thank you, Matthew.
Woo! Oh, hell yeah.